I saw a post the other day, started with the scariest thing about Halloween is the waste, and then continued into this kind of study, this 2019 study on Halloween costumes. I guess it's things you already know, and like we all know this about Halloween, that it's like this kind of wasteful time. It actually went through the statistics. I was like, oh, that's actually frightening. Here are a few of the stats from that post, or I guess that survey. 83% of material in Halloween costumes is made up of plastic. The issue with plastic in clothing is kind of twofold, to like massively oversimplify. The first issue with plastic in clothing is the fact that it's made using petroleum, like the original source, which is obviously oil, fracking, etc., extraction from the earth. Synthetic fibers don't decompose, so it can take anywhere from 20 years to 200 years, and in the case of sequins, that's projected to just never decompose. As well, during that decomposition process, clothing will release microplastics and harsh chemicals into the surrounding environment, which affects not only human life in that area, which tends to be somewhere in the global south, but also affects marine ecosystems. So this was a UK-based study, and it showed that in the UK alone, every single year, 7 million costumes go to landfill. Over the population of Ireland in garment form goes to landfill every single year. I'm laughing, it's not actually funny. That is a horrifying amount of plastic waste. But again, that's just the UK. So now think about Ireland, think about America, who is like overconsumption final boss. That's just a really scary amount of plastic waste that's produced every single year on one photo. This is all to say, I wanted to give this video on ways to like combat this waste in kind of like Aru style. I also wanted to upload this video a little bit earlier because I feel like anytime I make a fast fashion decision or fast fashion purchase, it's usually under pressure, where I've not given myself enough time to like browse through Vinted or plan things in advance, go into the charity shops and like rummage. And so I always last minute kind of resort to this like pressurized purchase. So here's some options to avoid buying fast fashion or avoid buying these kind of plastic costumes new. So the first is to borrow or to rewear. So borrowing, obviously ask around your circle if anyone has any costumes they don't mind you borrowing, or any costumes that they're not going to wear this year that you can borrow. And then rewearing, if you know that you have a costume sitting somewhere from a few years ago, or it's sitting in your house and not getting good use, chances are you probably only uploaded 1 or 2 photos and people aren't necessarily going to remember, and it's only one night, so why not get more use out of it, especially if it's something that you actually loved wearing at the time. The next is to thrift or to buy secondhand. There are Halloween costumes everywhere. Naturally, if you think back to those statistics of how many costumes are produced every single year and how many are thrown out every single year, there are more than enough costumes currently on the market on the likes of like Vinted, on Depop, on eBay, obviously in your local charity shops, as well as like Halloween decorations and Halloween other things. There's definitely lots and lots of costumes, or like little accessories here and there that you can pick out, make up a costume. So I guess once you start like conceptualizing a costume, head into the charity shops and get digging. And it will require a little bit of scrappiness in the way that you approach a Halloween costume. Well, a lot of the times there are just Halloween costumes ready to go. If you're doing like a really specific character, giving yourself lots of time to kind of upcycle thrifted pieces or secondhand pieces is the way to go. I am guessing though, if you've clicked onto this video, it might be because there's only either a week or less than a week to go before Halloween. Here are 3 foolproof costume formulas that should hopefully get you through Halloween. I'm also making a lot of assumptions here that you'll have these items lying around the house, but if you don't, hopefully it'll just like, you know, give a little bit of inspo and maybe you have something similar that could still work. So the first is white shirt, black trousers. The first one is Patrick Bateman, so that kind of iconic suited look. There is like a few elements of this that if you really wanted to become the character, you would need an addition, like the see-through raincoat and the red tie and things like that. But I have seen variations on Pinterest that kind of give the same effect. The second, I'm sure everyone has probably guessed what I'm going to say, but it's Mia Wallace. Also in charity shops, there's always wigs, and I always see them on like Vinted and Depop. I would definitely have a look secondhand before you buy new. But I think this would be a great option for people who do already have a bob. kind of an iconic part of that character. The witch, like kind of like the craft vibe, you could so easily go with that, with kind of like a schoolgirl-esque style if you have like a black skirt and a white shirt, same as like Britney Spears. The next two just need black and white as kind of a base, and then if you're in any way skilled in makeup, I feel like you'll be able to do this. The first is a mime and the second is a clown, which I feel like sometimes the makeup can like overlap, but there's so many inspiration pics on Pinterest. Again, you would just need to probably last minute go grab some face paint or use a pale foundation or something. The next little formula is corset top and some kind of bottom. When I say corset, I'm kind of in my head envisioning those Amazon corsets that blew up for some reason during COVID. They're kind of everywhere on Vinted, but I also feel like a lot of people had bought them at the time. And if not, a lot of girls would have bought the Urban Outfitter type corset top. The first is a princess. Again, you could so easily make a little cardboard crown, or maybe rummage and see, maybe you have a crown lying around from when you were younger or something. Next is a fairy. Again, I think a lot of this comes down to like hair and makeup and kind of overall styling as well, but kind of maxing out on accessories. And also wings are really quick to make. Vampire as well, so you don't need a corset at all if you're just doing vampire makeup, because it's just a bit of red lipstick down the side of your face. If you're going for that more kind of like fantasy look, I feel like a corset works really well. The next is showgirl. If you're looking for something a bit more like saucy, I think a corset top and maybe like something a little bit skimpier on the bottom, and then really blowing out like your hair and makeup. If you have like feathers hanging around, feather boa, etc., I think that's a really good option. The next one again is like a witch. I guess this comes into play more if you have like, yeah, darker colors. I think this can look more effective. Witches hats are really easy to make if you have a bit of cardboard hanging around, like a cereal box or something. Similarly, like mermaid, I think is an easy one if you have blues and greens, or even like a white corset. And if you have a lot of like pearl accessories or like netted things, like a net cardigan, crochet cardigan that you can sit on top, and then pairing that with kind of colorful mermaid makeup, I think is so easy. Because I feel like a lot of people have bought like kind of starfish, kind of nautical inspired jewelry in the last few years. I feel like in summer that's become a big thing. So that's, I think, a really easy and quick costume as well. Putting gel in your hair to like wet it. And then lastly then in this category, I think, is pirate. I always see photos on this. I've done this myself with a corset, but I think this is such an easy costume because all you really need is a bandana or like any kind of scarf that you have at home, like a silky kind of scarf, some belts, any kind of bottom, but like maybe a long skirt would be best, and then just like accessorizing to the max. This one's a little bit like, thanks, that was so helpful, but jeans and a nice top. I do think though, jeans is such a versatile costume piece, and you can really do anything with jeans, especially like contemporary type costumes. The first costume I was thinking about was a hippie. And I think if you have any like flared jeans or just like oversized, then adding like a little waistcoat or a little fur gilet or whatever, really leaning on like hair and makeup, like flower crown, doing that with makeup. People can read what it is really quickly, and it's such an easy costume. If you have like a little silk scarf, you could have that as a headband and it kind of does the talking for you. The next is like generic 2000s pop star. If you have any kind of shimmer eyeshadow or like shimmery lip gloss, that automatically does it in the face. Moving on to clothes, any kind of like iridescent or like baby pink. This is a good one for like girls with blonde hair because you could so easily be like a Britney or a Hannah Montana. The next one I was thinking about was a cowgirl. Obviously it would be great if you had a cowboy hat or a cowgirl hat lying around, which I weirdly think a lot of people do just because they've been trending. But if you're lacking the hat element, like adding like a little neckerchief. And then the final two that I'm going to talk about are Zombie, number one, which is so heavily based on makeup. This could be anything on the bottom half. Maybe something that you ideally could probably like chop up, or like not going to care that it's like chopped up or whatever. On a more kind of like wholesome note, becoming a scarecrow, which is just either like a bit of red lipstick, kind of orangey, warm toned eyeshadow, a few like eyeliner tricks, wear a t-shirt and or like a plaid shirt and jeans. So yeah, hopefully that was a little bit helpful, at least. If it wasn't helpful, maybe it gave some inspo just for like other things to look for. I guess the conclusion of this whole video is that we really don't need to be buying any new costumes. So yeah, get a bit creative, get a bit crafty. A lot of the time you just need a few little signals to a character to make it make sense. The night is just about like having fun and getting like a pic with your friends. Yeah, let me know what you're dressing up as below. Happy Halloween, you guys! Ooh!